Hello and welcome to the GTPlanet Karting series for another round of the championship. Specifically, round 7 here. We're stateside at Willow Springs Raceway. It's been a cracking season so far, and we're looking forward to action getting underway. My name is Tom Brooks, and alongside me for this one, as ever, is Andrew Mather. Hiya, Andrew.
Hi Tom, great to be back at Willow Springs. Not been at Willow Springs personally since we had the Endurance Series test day all the way back at the start of this year. So really looking forward to some more great karting series action. We had an absolutely fantastic meet at Silverstone last time out, and here's hoping that the drivers can replicate or maybe even better our Silverstone races. It'd be very hard for them to do so. So yeah, let's get cracking. Let's get into the races.
Absolutely fantastic. Of course, we're at the Streets of Willow layout, so it's going to be a very interesting and difficult challenge for the drivers ahead. But I'm sure, of course, as we've got the best karters on GT Planet, it will be no problem at all. And we'll certainly see how Nick Mikosi, of course, will fare for being the winner at Silverstone last time out. And, of course, Zajak, who looked to be so close to taking that victory, but unfortunately it all came undone for him within the last few laps of that race. So we've got Heat 8 and Heat B on the way, as well as the finals in just a few moments' time. Stay with us, we'll be there in just a couple. So the first heat of the day then is, of course, Heat A, and it's set to be an action-packed race, I am sure, Andrew, with a very good lineup for the grid as well.
Yeah, let's have a look at the starting grid. On the front row, it's JJack33 looking to respond from the disappointment of Silverstone with GTP Jammy in second. Row 2 is Mr. Racing Line and Chris W265. Row 3 is D15 1998 and UNC Pub 16. Good to see Pub 16 back in the karting series. And then Mikosi Academic in 7th place. 7 karts on the grid, waiting for the lights to go green.
And then, of course, we will be underway for racing here for the 7th round of the championship. Drivers being held for a mightily long time, it must be said. Getting underway once again now. Good start then from Zajak and GTP Jammy off the front row of the grid as they come down in towards turn 1. Who is it going to be that leads the way then as they come in towards the first corner there, Andrew? I'm afraid so. We've got a few issues once again with our stream, but everyone getting away fairly cleanly. It is Zajak then who leads the way. Bit of argy-bargy further round as well as we see Pub 16 going off the track, as well as I think Chris W265. But Zajak then leads the way from GTP Jammy from D15 1998, and Mr. Racing Line there in 4th. Bit of argy-bargy there at the start we had, Andrew, but nonetheless everyone's still facing the right way.
Yeah, that's good to see. I thought Chris W265 and Pubs were going to be coming unstuck there. Both drivers did very well to recover. Meanwhile, at the front, it was pretty clear at the front, and a nice start for JJack33 and GTP Jammy. We saw these two embroiled in battles at Silverstone, and no doubt they're going to be embroiled in another battle here between the two of these drivers, and they've already got quite a gap on D15 1998, Tom.
Of course, and as we know, with the finals here, the top 6 will go through to the final from Heat A. Similarly, the top 6 from the final will go from Heat B, rather, will go through to the final. So 12 drivers taking to the final. And of course, with only 7 for the first heat of the day, just 1 driver will fail to qualify. Mr. Racing Line versus D15 at 1998 as they come down the main straight, head in towards the uphill right-hander of turn 1. We've got Chris W265 in the pit lane now as well, so his earlier contact on lap 1, surely that must be a bit of damage, and that must be able to put him out of contention for the rest of this race, unfortunately. We'll see how he goes on. Pub 16 also in the pit lane now as well, so it's going to be a battle to see who will qualify for the final position in the final. But it is still Mr. Racing Line versus D15 1998 battling for position at the moment. Mr. Racing Line reigning on top of him at the Mo. But Jammy, GTP Jammy, of course, there in second place. Hasn't got too much of a gap to Zajak ahead of him. You can see that there, just a couple of kart lengths, Andrew. And unbelievably, it is going to come down to the wire, I am sure, for the 6-lap race.
Just looking at the minimap, someone running a little bit wide up at the top of the course. I think it might have been Mr. Racing Line. But at the moment, it's lucky for him that the 2 karters in 6th and 7th have had problems, because it's not mattering too much for qualifying for the final. Mikosi Academic having a much better run than last time out in Silverstone, 4th at the moment, and looking to close down D15 1998. But it's still these 2 drivers at the front, JJack33 and GTP Jammy, usual suspects doing very well in the early throes of this race. Lap 3 out of 6 then.
Such a characteristically different circuit from Stowe, of course. Stowe being comparatively flat, with Willow Springs being very undulating and a very difficult technical challenge for the drivers with pitches and turns and elevation changes and hills and inclines and declines and so on and so forth, and sharp corners left, right and centre. A very, very different challenge, of course. A longer lap for the drivers to contend with as well, hence the only 6-lap duration compared to the 13-lap on average duration that we had at Silverstone. But nonetheless, drivers coping with it very, very nicely indeed. And Zizek still leading the way. We've got a note on the message board at the left-hand side of your screen. Cars 27 and 98 to retire and pit at the end of this lap. So that, of course, is Makosi Academic and Pubs 16. And that's owing to a poor connection for the drivers, I'm hearing in my ears. So, unfortunately, that has put pay to the end of their races. But nonetheless, we'll see how things fare for them for the finale at Brands Hatch. But that has pretty much decided things for the final, Andrew.
Yeah, a bit of a shame that this heat has gone that way, but that's motor racing. Sometimes we can't have a thriller in every single race, and I think we've been given our fair share of fantastic races so far. So we'll take this one of not being the most exciting for given how many good ones we've had so far this year. But JJack 33 and GTP Jammy still giving a good show at the front of the field. JJack 33 just edging that gap and doing the classic Jackie Stewart, winning at the slowest speed required technique, just keeping himself out of danger's way of an attack from GTP Jammy. D50 1998 still running well again in third place. Mr. Racing Line, another very quick driver who we've seen plenty of in the karting series this year, in fourth. Chris W265 wasn't very happy in the early parts of this race, but looks like he's still going to qualify for the all-important final. As we're just coming on to lap 5, 2 laps to go then. JJack 33 leading from GTP Jammy, and as there's someone off on the minimap, I think it might be one of the karts. It might be UNC Pub 16, I think it is.
Yeah,
who still hasn't retired.
Something of a disappointing race with Pub 16, unfortunately. So all drivers now racing for points. Well, I have to say, what is interesting, of course, at this Willow Springs circuit is the difference in lines that these guys take, especially through the banked corners, actually, as well. Just look at the driving style of Jammy, very smooth, very consistent, whereas JJack, again, fairly smooth, but a little bit more raggedy, I must say. He likes the car to be a bit more sideways. We noticed that, of course, at Silverstone, and likes the rear of the car to turn a bit more. Or at least so I'm judging from his driving style. Look how much higher he went through that banked corner compared to GTP Jammy. So, disappointing end to the race for a couple of drivers, but nonetheless, it has been thrilling up front with GTP Jammy holding on to a well-deserved second place, and rightfully so. These drivers aren't particularly posing much of a threat to each other, Andrew, because of course it's not all that important, really. Let's be honest. I mean, they're all going to get through to the final nonetheless. So it's just purely for pride, really, more than anything. This victory.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of the drivers wanting to get one over on their competitors, just get that little edge before the grand final. But you're right, in terms of everyone's having a fairly clean drive now to the finish, getting some good laps under their belt, getting some practice more than anything before the grand final later on, which we'll have after the next heat to decide the remaining spots on the grid for that grand final. On to the final lap now, and it's still JJack 33 from GTP Jammy, D50 1998 Mr. Racing Line, and here is Chris W265 in 5th place.
Yeah, I must say that, of course, this does indeed count for points-paying positions, so points mean prizes, as we know, at the end of a season, so it's all, of course, for the benefit of the championship, and JJack, of course, not only for points, but it'll also be a massive confidence boost, considering his disappointment at Silverstone as well. He was so unlucky to have things come undone within the final few minutes of the race at Stowe. And unfortunately, it didn't go his way there. But nonetheless, this is going to be a very, very big, as I say, confidence boost for him coming in towards the final. Only a couple of races for these drivers to contend with throughout the day. But it is indeed JJack then who wins Heat A here of the GTPlanet Karting Series in a dominant style for the Frenchman. GTP Jammy holds on to second place, and D15 1998 will round up the podium. So 3 different nationalities in the top 3 positions. and a relatively sedate race there, I must say, in comparison to what we've been treated to in the GTPlanet Karting series. But nonetheless, very, very interesting tactically as well, and everybody running very, very nicely indeed. And as we know, all drivers, of course, will progress through to the final for this race.
Good confidence booster for JJack33 after the disappointment and the small mistakes, but costly mistakes at Silverstone. So it's good to see JJack33 back on form and ready to take the fight to Nick McCosey in the championship. And we'll see Nick McCosey in the next heat, of course. Good drive again from the Finnish driver at GTP Jammy. And once again, good to see D15 1998 on the podium in this heat.
Yeah, everyone doing an absolutely fantastic job as we wait for Chris W265, of course, the only American in the field, or remaining American in the field, across the line. And indeed, he did in 5th place. So onwards then to Heat B. Let's have a look at the grid for this event. It's Nick McCosey on pole position. Alongside him is Push the DZ. In 3rd place on the second row is Peels to 1, Cruel 69 in 4th, Euclid 58 5th, Yo 2099 in 6th, T Kennedy 85 7th, Skells 22 rounds out the grid in 8th place. So a smaller grid than we had previously in some races there, Andrew, but nonetheless should prove to be pretty action-packed.
Yeah, and nobody wants to be in that 8th position as the top 7 will progress to the final. 6 laps round Willow Springs. The green light is on and we are away. And it's a really good start from Push the DC. Look at that, a really great launch. And he takes the lead off of pole sitter Nick McCosey as they run up to the top of the hill through the left-hand kink, which doesn't really count as a corner at this stage of the race. And then into the very tight right hairpin. Is everybody going to make it through the first proper corner this time? Yes, they do, although Skells 22 is lagging a bit behind the rest of the field. So if the race was to stop now, Skells would miss out. But it's Push the DZ leading from Nick McCosey, Peels to 1 in 3rd, Euclid 58 4th, T Kennedy 85, Crawler 69, Yo 2099, and then Skells 22 bringing up the rear. So clean start there, Tom. Good to see, and very close now to see who can get the crucial points in this heat before we go towards the grand final.
Yeah, everyone getting away very, very nicely off the row of the grid that they were on, of course. A great start from pretty much everybody involved and minimal contact throughout the field as well, really demonstrating the calibre of drivers here today. There's Nick McCosey, of course, who is looking to battle with Push the DZ. Will he be able to launch a challenge for the lead as they come in towards the final part of the lap? As with Stowe, it's a very much a one at a time through there, but going down the back straight, of which, of course, there is not a particular straight on this circuit, very much like Laguna Seca in that respect. But coming down the straight in towards turn 1 they go now. And Nick McCosey not able to mount a challenge. Looks towards the outside as they come in towards the tricky right-handed hairpin. No way through for him there. Looks to get the switchback. But again, Nick McCosey has to settle for second best. Push the DZ, though, still defending from him at the moment. As we see a change of position, then Nick McCosey gets himself up the inside and gets the lead. Will he be able to launch it, though? Nick McCosey... Oh, very close between the two. Push the DZ still side-by-side racing through the left-hander they go. And in towards the right now. Banging wheels between the white and the yellow carts. Into the left-hander. Absolutely unbelievable racing between Nick McCosey and Push the DZ. Incredible on lap 2 out of 6. And it's Push the DZ who goes off the track. He's off. Unbelievable there for the American on home soil. He was having such a good run. And he's now down in 4th, potentially even 5th place. He's going to be careful there, Andrew, to not go down in towards the drop zone.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a real shame if Push the DZ ended up in that drop zone. But I do think Push the DZ is not in the championship battle. Who's that going off and taking a bit of a weird shortcut? It's a T Kennedy 85. Not quite sure what was going on there, but Push the DZ not in the championship battle, of course, so able to take a few more risks. I think wanting to take the win or retain the lead, at least at this stage of the race, for a bit of pride more than anything. Nick McCosey, though, I reckon he's going to want to win this heat, having just seen what JJack33, his rival in the championship, has just done in that first heat. He's going to want to match that. And who was that going off? In fact, Yo 2299 off, but there was another car locking up its tyres on the inside. So it's all going on here at Willow Springs. Push the DZ now up to 4th place. It was Crawler 69 who made the mistake. And someone on the minimap's also off as well. I think it might be T Kennedy 85.
Oh, action aplenty here at Willow Springs. If you thought the first heat of the day wasn't action-packed, then certainly...
Sorry, Tom, Nick McCosey's got a problem. Nick McCosey's descending down the order. He's down to 3rd place. I think he's off the road. You can see on the mini-map at the top of your picture what has happened to Nick McCosey. He's now down to 5th place. This could have massive championship implications. His cart's not moving, Tom.
Unbelievable. What's gone wrong for Nick McCosey? He's down towards the rear end of the field. He's going to be in the drop zone. What on earth has gone wrong for him? Has he had some kind of an incident? He looks to be just sort of pirouetting in circles. That means then the unlikely leader of this event is Peelster, an All-American podium. Euclid 58 in 2nd place, Push the DZ in 3rd. And a warning there, return to track for 17. That's 3:17 of Nick McCosey. So has Nick McCosey made some kind of a crucial error and perhaps struggled with getting back onto the circuit? It's very, very difficult to judge from the limited information we have here in the comms box, but really putting pay to his race, unfortunately. So Peelster 1 leads the way from Euclid 58, from Push the DZ, from Yo2099, and in the drop zone it is indeed the Australian who, all but a lap ago, was leading the way, and he's now there, Andrew, not going to make it into the final.
Well, this is absolutely extraordinary as a development in the championship. We've no idea what actually happened. We only had the mini-map to tell us that there was a cart off and then the sign of Nick McCosey falling through the order. Nick McCosey, I've kept an eye on his little arrow on the mini-map. He is a long way behind Scales 22, so he's got a really uphill task to qualify for the grand final. Peelster 1 in the lead, having a much better time than he did last time out at Silverstone. Push the DZ now up to 3rd place. Could potentially take Euclid 58 with 2 laps to go here at Willow Springs, and massive, massive drama. The championship contender Nick McCosey potentially falling out as Push the DZ easily takes 2nd place, and Euclid 58 going very slowly, Tom. I wonder if Euclid 58's now got a problem.
Well, we did see him going off, of course, I think earlier on in the race. Maybe he's suffering from a bit of damage, perhaps, and I don't think Push the DZ is suffering from any damage, despite that off he had as well. So I hesitate to say that I don't think any driver has stayed on the track throughout the entirety of this race, unfortunately. It's been so unbelievably drama-filled. I don't think Push the DZ, following his earlier trip into the sand, would have thought he'd be sitting in 2nd place come the end of this race. That's quite a remarkable achievement. But I do wonder whether Euclid 58 is suffering from a bit of damage. Let's see whether he loses any more time as we come into the end of this race. I mean, look at the gap that Push the DZ has got compared to Euclid now there, Andrew. I mean, it's quite significant, and that's not something you just lose purely on pace, surely.
No, not at all. It's a race of attrition out there, and after the fairly calm and polite first heat that we had here at Willow Springs today, it's good to see that normal service has been resumed.
Sorry,
as Peelster 1 wins. Oh, no, sorry, he's got 1 lap remaining, sorry.
Do apologise to cut in front of you, because I think Nick McCosey has indeed got himself ahead of Scales. So Nick McCosey, the Australian, of course, who was facing in the tyre wall at turn 1 just a few laps ago, is now back into the final, albeit at the back of the field there, Andrew. That is incredible. What a recovery, and what time he has made up on his rivals as well.
Well, that's absolutely remarkable, but that's probably why he's so far up in the standings this year with talent like that and pace like that. Apologies for my premature. Saw the little message on the left-hand side and thought that said Peelster had won. No, it's saying he's crossed the line in first and has 1 lap to go. We are on the last lap, of course. Here's T. Kennedy 85. There is Nick McCosey. Not seen him since he was in the lead of this race. He starts his final lap now. And I do wonder if Scales 22 has his own significant damage, as it's not just a case of Nick McCosey having overtaken Scales 22. He's a long, long way ahead of Scales 22 now, as Scales 22 starts his last lap.
Got to say, that kart does look like it's crabbing ever so slightly, so potentially some damage for him. But it is Peelster 1, the American then, who crosses the line here for Heat B at Willow Springs Raceway, takes the victory. The first driver to cross the line of an All-American podium. 2nd place will be Push the DZ. 3rd, Euclid 58, despite the damage on his kart. Yo2099 should just hold on for 4th place. He's got Crawls 69 just behind him as well, but he does indeed. Yo2099 holds off to make it an American top 4. Crawl 69, the Canadian, in 5th. T. Kennedy 85, 6th. Nick McCosey recovers magnificently into 7th place. And then Scales 22, the British driver, rounding out the top 8 here at Willow Springs, and he'll be the only driver not to progress through to the final.
Well, a crazy race, Tom. Well done, Peels to one, the man who made the least number of mistakes out there and inherited the lead and can be very happy with the 5.2 gap that he had over Push the DZ. Euclid 58, that's one of his strongest results of the year, and good Robin Fringe style driving to get that kart home and on the podium. Yo 2099, good result for him. Crawler 69, T Kennedy 85. They'll all make the final. And of course, Nick McCosey, what a dramatic race. Looking like it was a win in the bag. In the end, he does qualify for the grand final, but a lot of sweat along the way.
Well,
Scale 22 misses out, unfortunately.
Well, Nick McCosey, of course, despite his dramas, still finished only 1.5 seconds, nearly 2 seconds back from T Kennedy 85 in 6th. So that was quite a recovery indeed. So from Heat A and Heat B, then, we bring you the final here at Willow Springs Raceway. And here's how your grid lines up. Zajac on the front row, Nick McCosey in 2nd, Push the DZ in 3rd, GTP Jammy in 4th, Mr. Racing Line 5th, D15 1998 in 6th, Chris W265 7th, Euclid 58 rounding out the top 8. It's going to be action-packed as ever. I am sure the rundown towards Turn 1 will be hectic. I can guarantee that. So 10 laps for Face the Drivers, and we're underway for the final now here at Willow Springs Raceway. A very good getaway from the second row of the grid for Nick McCosey. Is he going to be able to mount a challenge? Because Push the DZ now, potentially 3 wide coming in towards Turn 1. Push the DZ leads the way from Nick McCosey, but for how long as they come in towards the first corner? And it is still Push the DZ who leads the way from Nick McCosey, from Zajac, from Mr. Racing Line. But GTP Jammy caught up in there as well. He's in 5th place at the moment. D15 1998 keeping his nose clean as far as we can see, but Chris W265 now up into 5th place, and Chris W265 now going back down to 7th. What a start we've had there, Andrew. Absolutely unbelievable, but Push the DZ, the American driver, leads the way on home soil.
Push the DZ absolutely has his starts nailed today. All 11 karts still in this race. Everyone's still with a chance of taking the win here at Willow Springs today, but it's Push the DZ in the lead ahead of the championship battlers as Zajac 33 is now all over the back end of Push the DZ. Can he take the lead? Yes, he can take the lead. Midway round the first lap. Oh, there's a little bunny hop there and a spin, a massive spin.
Into the barrier.
Push the DZ.
Oh dear, what a shame. He made a very simple mistake in the last race for Heat B. And now it's all come unstuck, I'm afraid, for Push the DZ. Catapults down towards the end of the order. What unbelievable misfortune. Just clipped the curb, I think, there too much, Andrew. And these cars, of course, no suspension, have got absolutely no give.
Absolutely. That was quite remarkable, seeing Push the DZ doing something that would be more akin to a Ken Block Gymkhana video than a karting race. And it's left him down in 11th position now. Here's D15 1998, the Greek driver, having a really good battle with Chris W265, another one of our home drivers today here at Willow Springs. And it's advantage D15 1998 at this moment.
Yeah, I must say, very impressed with D15 1998, of course. He claimed a podium at Silverstone and has really sort of come on song within the last couple of rounds of the championship. Sitting there in 5th place at the moment, with Chris W265 for company as well. 265, of course, Chris. He is a very competent driver. I think there's a little bit of contact between the Greek and the American there. But nonetheless, keeping things facing the right way, which is always a positive. Just a bit of a signification, rather, I should say, of intentions, I think, from Chris to D15 1998 as they come in towards the technical part of the final lap. And still the battle going on. You cannot separate them on track. It's Silverstone all over again, Andrew. Nick McCosey and Zajac leading the way here at Willow Springs.
Well, it seems wherever we go in the world at the moment, these two drivers seem to find each other. And once again, we're going to have no doubt a great battle between Zajac 33 and Nick McCosey. But we all know what happened last time. It was Nick McCosey winning and Zajac 33 cracking under the pressure and making the small mistake as Nick McCosey gives Zajac 33 a little tap there, I think. Not intentional, but a tap nonetheless, as we've lost T Kennedy 85, I think, from the race, which is unfortunate. So we're down to 10 karts now. Push the DZ has inherited the position. Here's Euclid 58 now, as Chris W265, I think, has dropped away. Yes, he's lost a position, in fact, to Peels to 1 and dropped away from D15 1998. Meanwhile, a Scandinavian battle here as GTP Jammy takes on Mr. Racing Line Finland versus Denmark in this battle for third place. At the moment, it's advantage Finland and GTP Jammy.
Yep, so on to lap 3 out of 10 here at Willow Springs Raceway. And the final battle for the final podium position, rather, I should say, still going onwards between Jammy and Mr. Racing Line. They performed absolutely incredibly throughout the championship so far. Much like Jack and Nick Makosi, who are out in front through turn 1, they go and in towards the second corner now. Who is going to emerge victorious? Who will come out on top? It's going to be crucial for the championship as we head into Brands Hatch. I'm fairly sure it's going to go down to the wire. All but Nick Makosi then takes the lead momentarily, surely, from Jack. Jack looks to get the switchback as they come through the left-hander. Tries it around the outside. That'll be an inspired move from Jack. Unbelievably, he manages to pull it off. What an incredible bit of overtaking there from the Frenchman around the outside on Nick Makosi. That is faith and trust in the driver that you have got, that he will not budge an inch. That was fantastic. What an overtake. If the race ended there, I would be a happy bunny. But I have to say, we're surely going to be in for another 6 laps of incredible racing, Andrew.
Absolutely. We're not even halfway through this one, and we've already seen enough action to satisfy even the hardest to please racing fan. But I'd just like to say the great level of respect between these two. Jack 33 and Nick Makosi have been fighting tooth and nail all year. And you could easily have had a rivalry brew up that would get nasty and they'd start taking each other out. But Jack 33 and Nick Makosi putting on a great show for themselves, their teams back in the pits, and us here in the commentary box and watching at home. Brilliant stuff, and it's at the moment advantage Jack 33, but with still 5.5 laps to go in this one. Plenty of time for Nick Makosi to get the lead back. And the battle for third place rages on as Mr. Racing Line now takes that third place. That's why, because GTP Jammy's made a mistake and is off. And is going to lose fourth place to Peelster 1 and potentially fifth to Chris W265. As yes, Chris in the orange cart overtakes Jammy. So a little spin there for GTP Jammy. Is lost in 3 positions on this lap. And more importantly, he is now a long way behind Mr. Racing Line and that final place on the podium.
Yeah, consolidation now, surely, for GTP Jammy. He's just got to get himself as many points as he indeed can. Timing will be everything, of course. We'll wait and see, because anything can happen in motor racing, and indeed it usually does as well. Push the DZ there, still in 9th place, recovering from his earlier dramas. It's got Yo2099 for company as well. Just 10 drivers remaining in the field, and still Push the DZ going a little bit wide and getting a little bit squirrely through the final pass of the lap. He doesn't look to be comfortable, I have to say there, Andrew. Behind the wheel of that car, it looks to be understeering and sort of pitching and rolling all over the place, unfortunately.
No, doing some very, very strange things, that kart there, which is unfortunate because I think he has the talent to do a lot better should the kart allow him to show us that talent. Here's Chris W265. Now up to 5th position and looking at getting away past Peelster 1 for 4th place.
Indeed.
Recovering well.
I've taken a quick breath, which is always a positive, because the battle's still going on for the lead of the race between Jack and Nick Makosi as we boil down to the final few laps. Look at that, though, a battle going on for 4th place between Peelster and Chris W265. GTP Jammy coming into play now as well. So we could have a 4-way battle then for 4th position at the moment. Peelster versus Chris versus Jammy as they come in towards the right, then the left, and then the right again for the final part of the lap. Who will emerge on top out of these 3 drivers? You have to say that Jammy had the pace earlier on in this race, but didn't have the luck to be able to use it. And you would imagine that surely he'll be able to take advantage of that. He slots between the 2 carts. Are we going to see a reverse move like we saw with Schumacher versus Coulthard in 2001 at Brazil? Are we going to? He's going to get out the inside as GTP Jammy and takes the position then from Chris W265. Incredible. Great bit of overtaking there from GTP Jammy. Chris W265 not taking things lying down, as now the battle, we continue onwards between the top 2 there, Andrew. Still going on between Jack and Nick Makosi as we come in towards the final few laps, and now we've also got Push the DZ in the pit lane as well.
As I thought would happen, Nick McCosey now starting to find a little bit more pace and put JJack33 under pressure, and we've still got just over 3 laps to go as we come towards Sector 3. It's a bit of a hop there and a curb strike for JJack33, and it's going to offer Nick McCosey a chance of taking the lead here if he can set up the move. Push the DZ still in the pit lane. Obviously, there must have been something on its way out and braking on that kart due to the off that Push the DZ had earlier in the race. Real shame for Push the DZ, as he's been one of the, definitely the most spectacular driver that we've had here at Willow Springs today, and definitely deserved something more than a 10th place finish. But meanwhile, back on the battle for the lead, it's still JJack33 leading from Nick McCosey with 3 laps, just under 3 laps to go now. Lap 8 out of 10. JJack33 soaking up that pressure from Nick McCosey. And here back with Chris W265, and the battle for 4th place is widened out a bit now as GTP Jammy has been able to retake 4th place. Chris W265 now in 5th and peels to 1 down to 6th.
Yeah, credit where it's due also to Mr. Racing Line. We haven't really mentioned him in this part of the race, in this second half. Unfortunately, he's been so quiet and so in control and out of trouble that we must give a quick shout out to him for finishing in, or at least looking to finish in 3rd place at the moment. He's driven very well and looking to be a good podium position for the Danish driver. Still Nick McCosey then harassing Zajac. A reverse, of course, of Silverstone, where it was the other way around. Zajac harassing Nick McCosey, and it all came undone with the last few minutes of the race. Into turn 1 they go for the 9th out of the 10 time. Nick McCosey looking around the outside of Zajac. No way through there for the driver at the moment. Has to think about it again, does the 317. Over to the right-hand side of the track, in towards the left-hander they go. And across the road. And picking the apex, finding the lines of the possible. Bit of a curb hop there, did I see, from Nick McCosey. That's going to unsettle the balance of the kart and surely put him back a peg or two. And I think Pilster there also, Andrews, had a little bit of an incident because he's now back in 6th place.
Yeah, it's in this battle with Chris W265, which has been raging on for probably about 4 or 5 laps now. And Pilster one, I think, having a little bit of a moment there through the very tight right-hand hairpin early on the lap. Still Push the DZ in the pits, I can see. Not good news for the American driver there. But in this battle for 5th place, still Chris W265, who he's had a bit of a mixed event here today. Wasn't very happy in the heat with an incident on lap 1, but was able to make this grand final and is getting good points with this 5th place. On to the final lap then. Can JJack33 hold off Nick McCosey for one more lap?
Well,
about
time will tell.
75 seconds he's got to do it for.
Time will tell. So through the first corner they go. Down the hill, in towards the left-hander, over towards the right-hand side of the track. Clip the apex very nicely, they do so. Jammy there, holding on to 4th place in the blue cart. 5th place looks to be Chris W265's, barring incident. Pilster in 6th, Euclid 58 in 7th. He's had a quiet run so far, had so much promise in the earlier heats, but it all came undone for him, unfortunately. And D15 1998, who we were singing his praises earlier on, unfortunately looks to have fallen by the wayside, but will still bag some good points there in 8th place overall. And what can you say there? Unlucky 13 on the cart of Push the DZ. He's in the pit lane and he's out of contention for this race. But there's still the lead. Battles on though. In towards the final part of the lap they go. Will Zajac be able to hold off Nick McCosey through the left and into the right-hander for the final time as we come in towards the final couple of corners here at Willow Springs Raceway? Surely Zajac then he's going to hold on to it. He does indeed, ahead of Nick McCosey. He rounds the final corner, does the Frenchman. Zajac 33 takes the spoils here at Willow Springs Raceway. It is Nick McCosey who holds on to 2nd. Mr. Racing Line, the Danish driver, in 3rd. And GTP Jammy will round out 4th. And Chris W265 then, he rounds out the top 5 here at Willow Springs. What a race we were treated to there, Andrew. And what a dominant display following his earlier mishaps in the season from Zajac.
Tense, that's the word I'd use. A really tense battle there between JJack33 and Nick McCosey. Nick McCosey actually with a little mistake on the last lap, but understandable as he threw everything on the track to beat Zajac, and that's what we want to see. Nick McCosey leaving everything out on the track and still taking 2nd place, and he can be very proud with that effort. You've got to give it to JJack33 though. A fantastic response after the disappointment of Silverstone to win the event today. Nick McCosey, as we mentioned, second, and a great third place for Mr. Racing Line. Another fantastic race in this fantastic season here in 2015 for the GTPlanet Karting Series. A fantastic, I can't keep saying, just keep saying that word, fantastic, and absolutely brilliant response by all the drivers.
Well, it's a good adjective to use, I must say. It really does describe the caliber of racing we've seen here today at Willow Springs. And of course, this isn't the end for the championship as well, because of course it now rolls on to round 8 at Brands Hatch. That is going to be something special, I'm sure, especially with Zajac and Nick McCosey going head to head in the final few races of the championship. Andrew, we head back to Britain, of course.
Yep, it's going to be great to be back on home soil to finish the championship. And I can't wait until the final round.
So Zajac then leads Nick McCosey by 13 points after the day's racing here at Willow Springs Raceway for round 7 of the GTPlanet Karting Series. There's 62 available. Who will emerge victorious? Well, you'll have to wait and find out when we go to round 8 of the championship at the Brands Hatch circuit. It is going to be incredible. Hope you can join us then. From myself, Tom Brooks, and from Andrew Mather alongside me here in the commentary box. We'll see you in Britain, in Kent, for the final round of the GTPlanet Karting Series. Until then, though, take care for now. We'll see you soon. Ta-ra.